Hello and welcome to another video. This is Voorhees Retro 81 and this is a two-part video. Well, it's not going to be two parts, but I'm going to talk about two things. The first thing is this is going to be the last video, I would imagine, that I upload this side of Christmas Day. So I just wanted to say a big... Firstly, I just wanted to say a big, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great time doing it, and enjoy yourselves immensely doing it, and that you're able to, at least do part of what you were planning to do, despite the whole situation that's going on at the moment with new variants and such like. So all the best for that, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. And just also to give a big thank you to everybody who's watched the channel over the past year. I think I've nearly been doing the channel a year now. I don't think I had it this time last year. I think I started it somewhere around January, so I'm coming up on like a full year of doing the YouTubes, and it's been great to hear from people who are enjoying the videos, get feedback. It's been great to just see new things on other people's channels, and that inspired me to do stuff on mine and all these kind of things. So thank you to everybody who's been watching the channel and interacting with me through it. I really appreciate it, and long may that continue into 2022 and beyond. Right, so without further ado, I am going to now video respond to Girl Pain, which is the second part of the video, and I'm going to restart my stopwatch because I goofed slightly earlier and realised that I had actually started the video response without having previously watched the video, which was a bit daft of me, but because you'll understand why, because I think I've talked about this before, and it makes me very excited, the idea of talking about these games. So, Girl's subject was Metroid versus Castlevania, effectively. Now, I like both, but I'm a Castlevania man. I'm always going to be a Castlevania man, but that doesn't mean that I've not got a rich love of both series, and a lot of that, a lot of me loving Castlevania, I think, comes from the ways in which I've been able to experience the Castlevania series and the greater experience I've got of it than the Metroid series, as much as anything else. So I actually played Metroid first out of the two. One of about 3 Game Boy cartridges I had when I got a hand-me-down Game Boy from my brother was Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. And I've never beaten that game. It's very difficult and confusing, as many people who've played it know. It doesn't have a map. It's very difficult to work out where you're supposed to go, etc. But I loved it to bits, and it was like probably outside of Turrican, one of the first games of that size with that kind of like serious sci-fi bent to it, rather than being a cutesy game as a platformer that I'd played, and it kind of blew me away at the time. And then I didn't play a Metroid for quite some time after that, because I have I've never owned any of the like major home Nintendo consoles aside from the GameCube, and I was never big on the GameCube. I do have one. I still have one. I've still got nostalgic memories for the games that I enjoyed on it, but I didn't have lots of games, and I've never really got into buying lots of games on it. And so I've not actually got round to playing any of the GameCube Metroids, which are the first-person shooter ones, the Prime games. But I don't think I probably will, because I also have the Prime game on the DS, and I don't like it. It's not my kind of first-person shooter, and it's very difficult, which is a inherent issue with the... Well, I think the difficulty is definitely a thing with both of the series. But I'm going to go into why I think it's not as much of a problem with Castlevania overall, sort of as another subject here. So my favourite Metroid game is Metroid Fusion, which again I was never able to beat, but I really enjoy. It's got great graphics, great setting. You know, it's just a joy to play that game, even though it is very difficult. And I've never got around to actually sitting down and beating it. If you have it, I've gotten to the like weird plant boss thing, and I kind of know what I've got to do, but I never quite get it right. So I've just kind of left it to its own devices since then. Oh wow! Oh man, you puked all over me. That's disgusting. There's somebody else. Whoa! Stop! Will everybody stop vomiting everywhere? It's not New Year's Eve yet, for goodness sake. At least save that until after Christmas dinner tomorrow. Right, so... Right, and my favourite Castlevania... See, you puked all over me so much, you got me confused between Metroid and Castlevania. So my favourite Castlevania is Castlevania The Order of Ecclesia on the Nintendo DS. My favourite Castlevanias overall are the action RPG Castlevanias. So Symphony of the Night, Portrait of Ruin, Dawn of Sorrow. I always get that confused with Aria of Sorrow, which I don't own. I haven't got any of the Game Boy Advance ones. I should do, but I just haven't got around to it. Those are the ones that I really, really enjoy. And I kind of like Mirror of Fate, but I'll sort of going, blimey, overshoot much. Good lord. So I prefer that kind of like action RPG route to the pure platforming, because I'm not very good at platformers. I mean, I'm not terrible, but I sit in that kind of like average to middling like skill level on platformers, really. I'm slightly better at run and guns, but even then, you know, in general, I had a Commodore 64 and a PC of varying power levels growing up, and the PC and Commodore 64 platformers were a very different breed. A lot of the platformers on the Commodore 64 weren't really very good when you think about it or look back at them. They were kind of like, I think often they were made to kind of like try and compete with the NES, but the NES was much better built for that kind of game, for something that required precision and fast movement and such like. Where like there were some really good platformers on the Commodore 64, don't get me wrong. You know, things like Turrican, Myth, First Samurai, all kinds of cool games on there, but in general it didn't lend itself to this sort of fast gameplay speed that you needed to do things like, you know, Mario and Castlevania and Contra and such like. It wasn't kind of exact enough to kick out that kind of thing easily. So like a lot of the games that I really enjoyed on the C64 were things like Racers, and obviously actually my favourite game, Ghouls and Ghosts, is a platformer, but it's an arcade platformer, it's not a console style platformer, and I think there's a very different kind of gameplay on console style platformers like Sonics, Marios, Castlevanias, etc., to an arcade platformer like maybe Black Tiger, Ghouls and Ghosts. I don't know if you could call Son a platformer, you know, but those kind of games anyway, they play very differently from like your Sonics or whatever. Where is this bear? Oh, there it is. Bear growling at river. Bear falling in river. Very slowly falling in river because it's paralysed. Indeed. So yeah, I mean, so it was much better for me. I didn't really get into Castlevania until I got a Nintendo DS, because on those games, if I sucked at a part of it, because like I had a really difficult enemy that needed me to respond better, I could kind of do the leveling up thing and sort of make my character a bit more durable. and you know, therefore I wasn't purely relying on whether I was good at like timing my jumps and such like all the time. But one thing that Garl hit on, and because he's hit on it, I'm not going to labour on it for length, but I love sci-fi, but I prefer horror. So, and I like that kind of like, you know, creature feature, you know, big creatures, kind of fantasy horror, rather than rather than the kind of like realistic sort of serial killery kind of, you know, thriller type horror. So Castlevania is right down my alley in terms of like its look and such like. I think it's worth saying also, I'm not entirely sure if Castlevania Order of Ecclesia is my favourite Metroidvania style game of all time. I'd have to think about that a bit more, so maybe that's another subject for another video. I think there's some games that have come along after it that I enjoy just as much, if not more, but that aren't parts of big franchises. So that's something to think about, I guess, as well. But yeah, I mean, Castlevania is really my thing, more than Metroid. As much as I do love Metroid, I think it's a great series, and I've got a lot of nostalgia for it, from it being like one of the first Game Boy games I played in the 90s. But because it's a bit difficult for me, and I get confused when I'm playing it, and it has that kind of like grim dark sci-fi aesthetic instead of like a sort of slightly kitsch horror aesthetic like Castlevania does. I just sort of relate to Castlevania more. Anywho, that is my thoughts on the subject. I shall see you all either for maybe some other videos over Christmas or in the new year. Take care of yourselves and have a lovely Christmas once more. Thank you very much. Peace out.